One of the most important aspects of freeway history in the US would be the extremely divisive behavior of it all. It's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to building these massive concrete monsters. Sure, they create efficient travel and traffic between cities across the country, but a lot of the time they were constructed by cutting through low-income minority neighborhoods, displacing thousands of people. This has led to a recent movement to remove various freeways with controversial histories or just a useless routing. So today we're going to take a look at some examples of this that I haven't touched on before on my channel, to hopefully educate you on some of the country's freeway history. Before we get into that though, please consider subscribing to the channel. We make geography content like this every week, and subscribing really helps me out. So if you want to support me easily, this is the best way to do it. Thank you. Removing a freeway isn't an easy change. It first has to come from major opposition that turns to a major proposal. But that proposal has to have a design that creates the best outcome from the situation. Getting into the urban planning of it, it's essential to correct the issue created by the freeway. In this case, let's say it disconnected a neighborhood. The first priority should be how you can reconnect that neighborhood in the best way possible, meeting the needs of the people that actually live there and will be affected by the change. Recently in Detroit, the plan to remove I-375 in the downtown was delayed because the plan was met with opposition, saying it put pedestrian safety at risk and did little to reconnect neighborhoods. In this original plan, the new boulevard that would replace I-375 would be up to 9 lanes wide in areas, which is more lanes than the interstate they'd be destroying. This new design would serve as a divider between the neighborhoods itself. Planners were too concerned with the drivers and keeping traffic patterns similar, rather than if residents on either side could walk from neighborhood to neighborhood with ease, the real feature that would show a reconnection. It's a very complex, expensive process that can take years to accomplish, which is why this isn't happening to every urban freeway in the country. But there are some good examples, so let's get into it, starting with the Oklahoma City Crosstown Expressway project. So this example takes us directly into downtown Oklahoma City, where we find the now Oklahoma City Boulevard, which stretches across the south end of the central business district, ending at I-40 on both sides. This freeway was originally completed in the 1960s, becoming the city's busiest bridge or viaduct in this situation. It held 120,000 vehicles a day, being a very important route within the downtown. This held up until 2006, when the viaduct had gone through no major repairs over the last 40 years and was in very dangerous condition. Concern only grew for the situation after the tragic collapse of the I-35 West Bridge in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And just 1 month after that occurred, a large hole formed on the highway and closed all but one lane. The viaduct was set to go through major repairs in 2012, but the city was concerned it wouldn't make it to that date. So instead of making those repairs, they were forced to tear down the highway and build a new crosstown expressway to the south, bypassing the downtown. This sadly required displacing residents from multiple neighborhoods, but it did improve traffic issues. The site that the freeway once sat remained undeveloped for several years, being turned into extra parking space as the city decided what to do with it. They decided on a new boulevard design, and construction commenced from east to west, starting by connecting the road back up to the major I-40-235 interchange. This was completed in 2017, and in 2018, construction continued to the west through the downtown before finally being completed in 2020. The new design features a relatively wide layout, with 4 to 6 lanes total depending on your location on the route. It has sidewalks, and the speed limit ranges from 25 to 35 miles per hour. But its wide nature and straight design doesn't do a very good job at slowing the traffic down, making it relatively unfriendly to pedestrians. This brings us back to our issue with the Detroit Boulevard design. It was built for the ease of movement of cars, not people. This was an important project, though, that redefined the city's downtown. Moving to our next example, we have the Park East Freeway in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is an example that brings us way back into the history of Milwaukee, a city that has had important freeway revolt movements and could look very different if it weren't for those revolts. So the Park Freeway's former location is this short segment of Fond du Lac Avenue, McKinley Avenue, and Knapp Street on the north side of the city's downtown. Now, originally, the freeway was part of a plan to build a full loop that would connect to I-794 in the south. This would be part of a Great Lakes Expressway that would move down the coast to Chicago. The portion was started cutting through neighborhoods on the north end of the downtown. This was built during the 1960s, but came to a halt in the 1970s after local opposition stopped the already approved construction corridor encircling the downtown. This also came with the falling through of the Great Lakes Expressway, meaning there was less demand for it to get built. For the next 25 years, it sat there, underutilized and basically just working as a wall that disconnected neighborhoods. In 1999, it was decided the best course of action was to remove the spur, and demolition began in 2002. The former freeway was replaced with at-grade roads that traveled over the Milwaukee River and gave access to the Milwaukee School of Engineering campus, which used much of the former freeway's area for new construction. This was a successful project that helped restore the northwest downtown. Moving to our next example, we have Harbor Drive in Portland, Oregon, which is a former freeway that was located along the Willamette River in downtown Portland for around 1.7 miles. To look at this one, we have to move a lot farther back in history to 1943, when the highway was first constructed. Now, this wasn't really a freeway in the way we'd refer to it modern day, but it was a large-scale connector for its time. Now, even in 1943, it was a controversial freeway, removing several historic buildings and impeding the public's access to the downtown's waterfront. But it was still built. Over the next few decades, it was upgraded to become more of a real freeway, with growing opposition as these projects continued. This opposition finally turned into action in 1943, when Tom McCall, the governor of the state, halted expansion of the freeway. This came at the same time as the completion of I-405, which marked another freeway in the downtown, but did accomplish the reduction in traffic levels on the Harbor Drive freeway, something that needed to happen for the removal to be approved. The freeway was permanently closed in 1974, and construction began soon after on the new waterfront park, which was completed and has filled the space ever since. Present day, the freeway still exists as a short 0.7-mile highway that connects straight into the downtown before ending at the Nadeau Parkway. Very quickly before we end the video, I wanted to go over the 3 examples that I think are the most major or important freeway removal projects in the US when learning about this topic. Starting with the Alaskan Way Viaduct in Seattle, which removed a large viaduct along their waterfront, instead building the second longest vehicle tunnel in the US straight under downtown Seattle. This allowed them to redevelop the entire waterfront district, an opportunity a lot of cities would do anything for. This project was completed in 2019, costing the city $4.25 billion, being one of the most expensive public work projects in the country's history. Next up is the Big Dig project, likely the biggest example of freeway removal in the country. This was a massive, complete reconstruction of freeways in downtown Boston that took place from 1992 to 2006. With this project, they sent I-93 through the downtown underground, placing a park and boulevard on top of it. They also built a massive tunnel under the city's harbor and international airport, being another massive project in itself. This went significantly over budget, costing $25.5 billion, adjusted to inflation, an absurd price tag for such a project. It worked at redesigning the freeways in the city's downtown, and it helped the city, but ended up being the most expensive infrastructure project in US history besides the entire interstate system, which the project would have technically been included in. Finally, we have the Inner Loop in Rochester, New York, a project that removed part of the freeway loop around the city's downtown. This recent project, which was completed in 2017, allowed the city to redevelop over 22 acres of land, building more than 500 units of mixed-income housing and 8 acres of green space. This was an incredibly successful project at connecting the downtown back up to outer neighborhoods that previously had very limited access to the area within the Inner Loop, and it helped rejuvenate an otherwise declining downtown. But those are all the examples I wanted to go over today. The country absolutely has more interesting instances of this, and there are more coming in the future. So potentially I could make another installment of this if it does well. So let me know what other projects you'd like me to talk about. Thanks for watching. Thank you to the members this week: Steve Priestman, SB Wilder, Florida Jake, Sir JC17, Alex Williams, Makita Martinoff, Kurt Ainsley, Jerome McCall, KMS162, JL, Bryson, Dominic Psyche, Rosebud 4, Christopher DeAngelis, Darkbird, Big Pasty, Wolfling73, Snyder Schwein, Benjamin Whitings, Ryan Devins, and Hazev the Wolf. I appreciate you all so much. If you want to become a member, the link is down in the description below. All the money just goes into my savings, so if you want to help out the channel and help me out as a person, this is the best way to do it. Thank you.